Hello everyone, my name is Kristen. Welcome back to my channel. I am here with another video. Yes, I am back. When I tell you I have not filmed a video in about 2 months now, I don't even know how to do this anymore. I'm really not even supposed to be filming this video, but I've missed this so much that I've rearranged my schedule for the day so that I have the time to sit down and film this video for y'all. Y'all don't know how excited I am to be back here in front of a camera. And just a little background on where I've been, what I've been doing. Your girl has started grad school. She is getting her master's in public health. So I have been busy trying to get this degree. So I've had nowhere near as much time as I wanted to film videos for y'all or even really read like that. I am just taking this day for myself to sit down and talk about some of my recent reads that I have been able to throw in there, as well as some of the books that I've bought recently since my last video was also a book haul. So basically the books that I've hauled since that video. I've got my coffee. It is pumpkin spice latte. So you know your girl is ready to go and talk through some of these books. So you ready? Let's go. So first, I wanted to let y'all know the book that I am currently reading physically. And what I'm reading right now is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is my Patreon pick for October, and I am having a great time. I'm only on page 127, and I have all of these tabs so far. I'm taking it really slow, reading a few pages a day. I'm loving the atmosphere of this book and the fantasy world that this book takes place in. I'm loving the political intrigue that is going on right now, and the dynamics between the different characters so far are very interesting and has me hooked already. This book has multiple points of views, so every chapter it's a different voice, and I'm really enjoying all of the different points of views. And I truly look forward to taking this book out every day and reading a chapter or two before I go to sleep or starting my morning. Okay, so now for the books that I have recently read that I ended up rating a multitude of different star ratings. These are just gonna be the books that I've recently read. So first, I read and finally finished Blood Like Magic by Liselle Sambury, which I ended up giving a 3 stars. Then I finished up The Chain by Adrian McKinty, which was my Patreon pick for September, and I ended up rating this a 3.5 stars. And at this point, I was like, your girl needs a 4 or a 5-star read. Like, what is happening? Because I had been reading a lot of average 3-star books physically and on my audiobook listens. Like, everything was coming out to be a 3 stars, so I was kind of concerned. But then 2 books came along and saved the day. And so those books are going to be Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon, which I definitely gave a 5 stars. And then I also read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, but I listened to that as an audiobook, but that book was a 5 stars for sure. Let's backtrack to Blood Like Magic by Liselle Sambury, which I said I gave it 3 stars. Y'all remember, I know y'all do, because there was a point where I was talking about Blood Like Magic and all of my videos, starting from my most anticipated readings video that I did at the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021, I'm not too sure, but this was definitely included on that list, and I pre-ordered it and I got it when it came. It just took me a little while to actually pick up the book and read it. I ended up really enjoying, the synopsis of this book, and I love reading about Black witches. The premise of the story is that Voya Thomas is at an age for her calling, and so she has to take a test, basically a witchy type of test, so that she can come into her witch power. Voya Thomas ends up failing her calling, but her ancestors are allowing her one more chance to complete her calling, and the task she is given is to kill her first love. Unfortunately, the execution of the book, while actually reading the book, wasn't all the way there. I feel like something was missing, and I hate to say that I don't know what was missing, but what I did like about Blood Like Magic was the whole familial aspect of this book. The family of witches live together. The women are in charge. It's not a patriarchy in this household, it's a matriarchy. I just love the whole all the cousins and the siblings and the parents and the grandparents and everything, they're living together, and their main purpose in life is to love on their family, so I just think that's pretty beautiful. And another thing I loved was that this book actually takes place in the future. It's sci-fi elements in this book that I had no idea was going to be part of it, and the elements in this book were super cool. Some of the futuristic things that were happening in this world were pretty tight, that I hope that actually happens in the actual future. But my main thing was the execution of this book, and so there was just some things missing. There were some slow parts in the book that I was kind of like, okay, let's get back to the main point of our book. Did not need to be this long if the whole purpose of this book is for Voya to kill her first love. I just feel like that should have been the main focus, and there were a lot of other things that I guess were nice, but I need the action. Like, where was the action in this book? Of course, the action came at the end, like, you know, the last 100 pages or so, and I'm excited to continue reading this series because of the ending and everything that happened, because whoa, Voya did something that I just don't understand. So I'm gonna need it to be explained in the second book, and continuing on in the series, I'm gonna need that explanation to come. Next, I finished The Chain by Adrian McKinty, which I ended up rating a 3.5 stars. And the main premise of this book was basically this big old kidnapping scheme. Your child is gonna be kidnapped. You as a parent are gonna get a phone call letting you know that your child has been kidnapped. And for you to get your child back, you gotta go kidnap another child. And that is the chain that is going on. So there's a chain of kidnapped children, and mothers and fathers and loved ones are just stressed trying to get their child back and doing whatever it takes to get their child back. So whoa, that sounds amazing. And when Christine from Any Innings told me about this book, I have wanted to read this book ever since then. So I am happy that I finally have completed this book, because that's insane. Like, a chain of kidnappers that has been going on for years and is still intact. Like, it has not been shut down by the government or the police or whoever. So what are they doing to keep this chain going? And again, great synopsis, great idea, but the execution just was not there again for me. This book was split into 2 parts. The first part was interesting because that was, you know, when our main character's child gets kidnapped. And the second part, it just gets different. It's basically just trying to shut down the chain. The book did not need to be this long in order to accomplish those 2 goals, but I still enjoyed the story. So I gave it a 3.5 stars, because what I did like about this book is that each chapter is a different voice. So we're hearing from the daughter who got kidnapped. We're hearing from her mother. We're hearing from her uncle who is helping. We're hearing from the actual makers of the chain. So we're hearing that villain side of the story. And so we're getting all these perspectives, which I really enjoyed. And the fact that the author was able to integrate all of these voices into one book and make it flow. Overall, I would say read this book, because I mean, children getting kidnapped and then parents having to kidnap another child to get their own child back, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, y'all, let's talk about instructions for dancing. I knew I was gonna love this book because I've loved Nicola Yoon's other 2 novels and I've watched both of those movies. So if her track record continues, this is going to become a movie as well. And to get this book almost made me cry. So this one and Concrete Rose, they almost got me there. We are following Evie Thomas, who does not believe in love anymore because of her parents' divorce and the way that it happened. And especially because she has been given this power to see into couples' futures, and they all pretty much are ending in heartbreak. So she's like, I definitely don't believe in love at all. But enters X, who Evie meets at a dance studio, and they end up entering a dance contest together. And yeah, Evie is going to end up falling in love with X, but at what cost? I have seen so many tweets and pictures of people just like, why did Nicola Yoon mess me up like this? And so now I understand the tears. I understand the sadness. Nicola Yoon has a special gift in a way that she really does understand teenagers, in my opinion, because everything that Evie Thomas is feeling, like, I feel her. I understand why she's feeling this way. And to add to the fact that I love dancing, I loved reading about dancing within this book and the contest that they were competing in. I loved X and Evie, perfect together. X is it, okay? X is it. I loved seeing them on their little dates that weren't dates, and their banter, you know, you always gotta have banter. But I also appreciated how, like, Evie Thomas, her character, she knows everything about romance novels, because prior to her parents' breakup, she was all into romance and all these romance novels, right? So she knows everything about romance, and she's like, I know about this banter. This is not banter, and this is not a date, and, you know, when couples in books do this and that, and I'm like, she knows the formula of a romance book. But it's just funny to see like a commentary about romance novels in a novel by a romance author. Definitely an aspect of this book that I really enjoyed. To add the fact that it's super short and I read this super quick. This book, I thoroughly enjoyed everything about it, and the ending just wrecked me. Kind of wish this book was like a series. I would love to just continue reading about Evie and X like all day. And the main message of this book, for the most part, was basically saying that you need to live in the now and not worry about everything else. And that was a good reminder for your girl, because I'd be thinking about X, Y, and Z when I should really be only thinking about what's going on in this moment. X had a thing in the book where he would be saying yes to everything. No, I'm not saying yes to everything. But, you know, that kind of mindset is basically what this book is trying to promote. That's how you know a book did something to your soul, if you want to remember that message that a book was teaching you. And lastly, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which again, I listened to an audiobook and I gave it a 5 stars. I don't have too much to say about this book, just that it was sadly beautiful. Sad and beautiful at the same time. Powerful, so many lessons, so many things to think about. Basically, we're following Lily, who has had a hard upbringing for the most part, but that's not going to stop her from achieving her goals until she's moving away from home. She's opening her new business. She's getting her life together in her own way. And one night she meets this man named Ryle, who is a neurosurgeon, and he just turns Lily's life around for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So basically, we're just following the relationship between Lily and Ryle and their ups and their downs. Relationships can be very complicated, especially if you're dealing with somebody who can be considered quote unquote toxic, abusive. So trigger warnings for abusive situations, toxic situations, just anything bad that can go in a relationship, trigger warning. It's really hard when you love a person who has bad qualities, right? So it's really hard to kind of figure out what you as a person wants to do for your future, your current situation, your love life, all that kind of thing. So I was really feeling for Lily's situation. Like, no, I'm not in a similar situation as Lily, but I can still relate to her in some way and understand where she's coming from, given that, you know, we're reading from her point of view, so we're getting all of her background story and her current thoughts and feelings and everything like that. And at the end of the book, there was an author's note that says that this book, It Ends With Us, is based on Colleen Hoover's upbringing, and this was the first Colleen Hoover book that I've ever read, so I don't know, maybe I'm a Colleen Hoover fan now. I'm getting a lot of mixed messages from her in the book community, so I'm not too sure yet how to feel about her as an author, but I do know that I enjoyed It Ends With Us, and I will be reading more from her to kind of see how I feel about her as an author overall. But those are the books that I have recently read in like the past couple of months, I would say. Physically, again, haven't been able to read as much as I wanted to, so that's what I've been reading. But I am excited about the books that I have purchased recently, and I'll be reading them eventually. Hopefully, I'll have time to read all the books at once, at the same time. But definitely could not resist going to bookstores and purchasing books, even though I'm not reading books nearly as fast as I'm like purchasing books, but that's normal. Books that I have purchased recently through bookstores and some of my book of the month picks that I've chosen lately, I wanted to show y'all what I've been choosing, and that's the reason why this shelf here is like empty, because that's where I'm keeping my book of the month books now. So the first book that I bought is The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson, which is part of the Truly Devious series, but I think it's some like extra book, so it's not part of the Truly Devious trilogy. It follows a new storyline, but with the same characters. Perfect for like a spooky season type read, a fall read, I would say, as we are solving a mystery here. Adding on to the spooky season type reads and a new release book as well is going to be A White Smoke by the one and only Tiffany D. Jackson. Y'all know that I love Tiffany D. Jackson. So when this book was finally announced and it had a release date and everything, I knew that I had to buy that book as soon as it came out. Two of my goals are to, one, read more sci-fi books, and two, read more adult books in general, whether that's sci-fi, fantasy, romance. So to add to my adult sci-fi collection, I have the first book in the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. I've heard that people love this trilogy, and it's pitched as like Hunger Games meets Game of Thrones. Love Hunger Games. And I'm in the middle of watching Game of Thrones. Like, I have not finished that series, but loving it so far. So a book with those combinations of worlds and stories, I think is going to be perfect. And with a sci-fi twist, I think that's just going to make it even more interesting and more fun to read. Another new release that I purchased recently is Beasts of Prey by Ayana Gray, which is already, I've heard, going to be like a Netflix show or movie. People who were reading arcs and everything loved this book, so I definitely knew I had to buy this book on its release week as well. I am just so happy and so excited to read this book. And lastly, a book that I managed to pick up from Half Price Books for a very good price is Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. I was able to get the hardcover version of this. Honestly, this book wasn't necessarily at the top of my TBR, but a lot of people have been talking about Homegoing recently, and I was looking at the Goodreads reviews and everybody just loved this book. So I was like, okay, it's at Half Price Books. It's at a really good price. This is my sign to pick up this book now and buy it and read it soon. Those are the 5 books that I have recently purchased. I want to show you my latest book of the month picks. I've been subscribed to Book of the Month since I think February of this year, and I'm really loving this service. Like, no, this is not sponsored. Like, that would be a dream, but I am loving the Book of the Month service and the ability to pick a book a month that's like a new release, and sometimes it's a book that I probably wouldn't buy or read otherwise if I wasn't given the option between the 5 books that they offer you every month. So starting in August, and we'll go August, September, and October picks. So starting in August, my pick was The Inheritance of Orquidea, Divina. And this book has also been taking over the book community in general. And definitely from the 5 books that were being offered that month, it was the book that I wanted the most. But funny story is that I picked this book, right? But when I opened my Book of the Month box, it wasn't that book. They had sent me Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapina, which honestly was my second choice out of the 5 books, but they sent me Not a Happy Family. So I was like, hold up. I appreciate this book, but I also would like the book that I chose. So I emailed them. Actually, they emailed me first. Like, we noticed that we sent you the wrong book. So I was like, okay, Book of the Month customer service, like fixing the problem. And then they ended up letting me keep this book. So I ended up getting 2 books in August for the price of 1. In September, I chose The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, which I feel like a lot of people chose that month. And I've been seeing a lot of people reading this book and loving it. I haven't had the chance to read this book yet, but given everybody's reviews and everything, this has been moved like higher up on my TBR, and I will definitely be reading this book very soon. I see chemicals and stuff in the background, and hypothesis is in the title, so loving the science integration with romance. Lastly, for this month, October's Book of the Month pick, I also got 2 books, but this time it wasn't Book of the Month's fault. It was my fault because I could not choose between these 2 books. They both sounded amazing, so I just went ahead and did an add-on and got both of the books. My first book is Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead. And then I also got The Perishing by Natasha Dion. I literally just could not choose between these 2 books. I kept on going back for like a couple of days at the beginning of the month, trying to read the synopsis and read different reviews about it, and still not being able to decide which one I would want more than the other. So yeah, I just had to get both of these books. I would say these are examples of books that I probably would not have read or really heard about or bought if it wasn't for Book of the Month. I'm a type of reader who likes to read from all genres. I just need to know which books to read from each genre that I would enjoy. So yes, everyone, that was like a semi-quick kind of review on what I'm currently reading, what I've recently read, what I've recently purchased from bookstores, and my last few months of Book of the Month choices. Overall, I've been pleasantly pleased with what I've been reading, what I've been buying, and just anticipating a lot of new releases and books on my own shelves that I would like to read very, very soon. I'm just so excited to hopefully be back to making more consistent videos here on YouTube. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it to the end of this video, comment down below some star emojis representing the last star rating you gave your last read. So was your last read a 5-star book? Comment down below 5 stars. Was it a 3-star book? Comment down below 3 stars and let me know what book that was, because maybe I need to be reading these books too. If you like this video, please give it a big like, comment down below, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and make sure your notification bell is turned on so that you don't miss any videos that I upload. Down below in the description box are the links to all my social media accounts. So my Bookstagram, my Twitter, my Goodreads, as well as my Patreon that I would love for y'all to join if you would like. I will see y'all in my next video. Have a great day. Bye!